Oh, look, we've produced a number of players who have come through the academy. You know, the academy's been going since 2006, so it's been going for a really long time. And yeah, we've produced some players who have played in the A-League, playing for the Socceroos. We had a couple playing young Socceroos, and now two of our players are playing in the J-League and one's playing in the K-League. And so look, we've had a lot of good players who come through the system, so obviously we're doing something right.
I always had a passion for football, always wanted to get to the highest level that I possibly could. I grew up in the Central Coast. I was always involved in the old Mariners Academy programs, and everyone in the Mariners Academy or whatever programs that were there thought that they thought they'd already made it, but we're only 17, 18-year-olds. Before I met Tony, I was kind of at a standstill. I was getting played around by some clubs. Met Tony, he really helped with his guidance. I just kept moving forward and just never stopped.
It's called caring for your player, you know what I mean? If you care for your players and really mean it and not look at the dollar signs. There's a lot of people look at dollars and chase dollars and lie to people as a coach.
Yeah, I definitely think football in Australia is a sleeping giant. There's so much potential out here, so many good players of all nationalities, all backgrounds. A lot of these players just can't get into A-League clubs because they get overlooked, and it starts from the grassroots as well. So many good players having to pay a ridiculous amount of fees just to play at NPL clubs. But
for me, you got to look after the player. I look after the boys. They become friends and they become family. Football's not just about playing football, rocking up, playing 90 minutes and going home. There's more to the game. You got to obviously look after your boys, make sure you get along with the boys and give them the respect that they deserve. Because everyone wants respect, and that's what we give them.
If the Australian football really taps into our own backyard well enough, I think we can have a really strong A-League and even better national team.
There's a lot of coaches that promise parents and promise players, but look, if the player is good enough, we'll help him. The player will make it. If he comes to our academy, he'll make it. We won't promise anyone, but if they're good enough, they'll make it. Simple as that. Well, back in 2006, I started coaching a few kids just at the park, just as a favour, basically. And, you know, I decided to grow the academy at the end of the day because I've seen what it was doing and the effect it had on the community. And, you know, the boys appreciate, they appreciate their coaches at the end of the day. So it started back then. I was doing a couple of kids, then it just started growing. And we're here today with over 300 players. To be honest, I thought there was no plan B. So I knew a lot about football playing since I was 4. I watched a lot of football and I thought I could make a difference. So basically it was to make a difference and give players an opportunity because football is in my blood.
Going back 10 years ago when I became a partner of Tony, his academy was based about pretty predominantly refugee students or students that couldn't afford to be trained by a professional, or children that are troubled, or children that are disabled.
I look after refugees. The Academy's been looking after refugees for 10 years. We take 20 refugees in every year, keep them off the street, teach them Australian values, and they got some talent, and we like to hone the talent. Well, Alassane Fofana's one who came from Sierra Leone, Africa, went on to play for the West Sydney Wanderers, played in the Asian Champions League, won an Asian Champions League medal, played for the young Socceroos. And look, there's other ones that we kept off the street that were in trouble, that we straightened out, basically. At the end of the day, football's football, but in reality, it's about people's attitude and their personalities.
Like he would tell me, these are all my children, or when someone would ask him, oh, how many children do you have? And he'd be like, so many.
There's a number of boys that are playing in the A-League, playing overseas. Mitchell Duke's one of them, he's playing in Japan at the moment. There's Kevin Apiakubi, who's currently playing in Korea, and he's doing a great job over there. And there's a number of other ones that are playing as well. There's one in England now currently in the Championship, who come through the academy, done a bit of training with us, who's doing big things. He'll play for the Socceroos soon. So we've got a number of players who are there and have played in the youth system as well in the A-League. And there's a number of them coming through the ranks now as we speak. Look, you can go fishing And some people like catching small fish, but I go for the big fish. You know, I work at the biggest clubs in the world. And stats don't lie, and you can see, you know, you can see what we do. People don't know. I don't need to sit here and tell you what we do. But I work with some of the biggest clubs, work with some of the biggest people in the world. You know, I don't want to sit here and harp on what I do, but people know that. There's a lot of coaches out there, they think they're too good for the world. They don't want to talk to the parents. They don't want to say hello to anybody. That's the wrong mentality. And it's the same thing for these guys. They come here, they got no family. It's a home away from home for them, basically, what I do with these players. As a coach in Australia, there's not much of a future. There's some really good coaches in NPL who haven't been given a crack, and I don't think they're ever going to get a chance. So for me, look, I coach because I enjoy it. I miss playing. So for me, the closest thing is coaching. I enjoy being around the boys. I enjoy being in the change room. I love all that stuff. But as a coach in Australia, mate, they're better off just looking to go abroad like myself. There's no pathway. There's no pathway for players. There's no pathway for coaches to go to A-League. Not enough teams, not enough clubs. I go to Europe and work with all these big clubs to bring something back and teach the kids here in Australia, because we've got the good players here. And also, I go overseas is to open doors and create opportunity for these young players that we have at the academy, to give them a pathway as well with some of the biggest clubs. I've had a player that couldn't make it here, he went overseas and made it. You know, so if you see the stories of the big players that made it, like Tim Cahill, Harry Kuehl, they all went overseas and they made a career for themselves. You know, and I think the best way is overseas. And as you can see with the Socceroos team, we've only got one or two players playing in England, playing in the top flight, and that's why we're struggling as a nation. We need more players overseas. So what I do is try and create that pathway to make our Socceroos stronger for the future. Look, I've been to Lebanon, mind you. I come from a Lebanese background. Lebanon's got Division 2 and 3. You know, if they can do it, so can we, at the end of the day. But people just have to put their hand in their pocket and make it happen, because the rate we're going is where we're not gaining any momentum. The governing body need to, they know what's going on, they're not silly, sort it out. They have to get this B League going, even get a C League going in a couple of years' time. Like, there's some really good clubs out there that want to go forward, but you need to be realistic and have a look at it and say, look, what are we doing? Where are we headed? If they're hitting a roadblock at the end of the day, they're not getting anywhere. And there's players in the NPL level that are very good. And you know what? All disrespect to some of the A-League players that play the game, there's players in the NPL level that are better, but they're just not going to get the chance. It's a recycling. A player gets sacked somewhere, he ends up finding another club. The coach gets sacked somewhere, he finds another club. Some of them have broken the record for the worst performances, and they got a job. Okay, we're going to open a facility for the academy. Hopefully the next 6 months, we're going to have a facility where players can go there and train full time. The academy will go full time in the near future. We're going to obviously have a facility indoor for the players of artificial grass. We're going to have a gym. We're going to have obviously a theatre room for the players to do tactical work on the projector screen and whatnot. We're going to have saunas, spas, and all that professional stuff that the players need. We're going to have obviously we've got the best coaching staff in Australia at the moment at the academy. As it's documented that we have 3 UEFA Pro coaches at the academy from Spain. We don't have many UEFA Pro coaches coaching your kids, so we've got the best in the business. So once we get the facility, the academy is going to be just unstoppable.
I am from Spain. My relationship with Tony is not only my boss for me. It's not just my boss, you know. Begin again in a new country is not easy. Difficult for me. The new language, new country, everything is different. Tony helped me with everything.
Look, I got the chance to come to Australia, and we fixed it up like very quick. So as a player and as a coach, in 1 or 2 weeks, I was fixing up all my papers and going to Australia. So it was very quick.
I've had the opportunity to work with some great coaches like Danny. You know, Danny's teaching me a lot, coaching side and playing part. Just started the academy recently, last year. I played overseas in Portugal, and now I'm just in the NPL. But I think we need to live football. We're not living it right now. You know, we're just taking it easy. I think we need to train every day. You know, study it and much more. Tony's helped me a lot. Tony's got a lot of connections. You know, in Australia, in Asia, in Europe. It's actually amazing. It's reminded me of Portugal. You know, they bring the same coaching experience down here. So the kids should be very grateful they're here.
Make me feel more comfortable here, more sure, and everything is alright. Now I am happy here in Australia and working in the academy.
I met Tony, and from the first day we had this connection because he's not a simple boss. He treats us like family.
I think the difference of this academy, of the other academies in Australia, here, Sydney or Parramatta, Radal Military Zone, is Tony knows very, very well Europeans' methodology. Go to Europe, contact with the clubs, with the very, very big top professionals in Europe. And for me, for the Spanish or Italian coaches, it's easy. Work here is the same, like Spain. The soccer here is different. For me, a lot of long balls and no control. A lot of in other academies I speak, no control a lot of the ball. And here in Australasian Soccer Academy, we work in the control of the ball and possession. And for me, it's the same, like in Spain.
And we as a staff, we got the same dream. Their success is our success.
Before than arrive here, a lot of people in Europe tell me Australian level is not very good, but I look many matches here now, and it's not bad level. It's good level, good professionals, but the problem is different. I think in 10 years, the level is similar than Europe, and in academies and in many clubs is the same. The methodology I speak.
When we did discover, that I was pregnant, it just pretty much changed Tony's perspective of life.
I just do football. Spend time with my daughter, my missus. But look, if I'm not playing music, I'm on the park. If I'm not on the park, I'm on the computer talking, having meetings, in all hours of the morning with the clubs. Obviously, the time difference.
It was November 2nd, 2017, and it was an academy night on a Thursday evening, and just started to get my contractions. He goes, "Contractions?" And I said, "Yes." She's coming, and then he goes, "Okay, I'll go to the academy and I'll come back, and then hopefully you'd be dilated a certain, centimetre." I said, "No, you are not leaving me. You are staying here." Organise the coaching staff and administration to take part and do their jobs, and we've got to go to the hospital. So it changed our lives, but his life continued, or needed to continue. So his being the director of the academy needed to continue afterwards. Being the coach of the team, he was pretty much 10 days or 2 weeks, 10 to 14 days later, he was on a flight.
Originally, I'm from Nigeria, born in Lagos. It was really, really hard. But finally, we made it to Australia, which is one of the biggest dreams we've always dreamed to come to Australia, to have a go with soccer. So, I was asking people around, where can I play soccer? And I got a mate, like, I know this guy in Sydney. His name is Tony Basha, if you want to go down to Sydney.
Christian came from Nigeria. He had no family. So when someone comes, and you got to look at it both ways. I travel the world too. I travel to Spain, I travel to Portugal, I travel to Holland, Germany, I travel everywhere. So when I go there, I want people to look after me as well. So for me, I'm accommodating. Bring them in, you treat them like family, look after them, and make them feel like home.
So I contacted Tony on the phone, and I called him. He was like, "Oh, you better come down. We'll have a look and we'll have a chat." So I came down that night. It was really, really cold, and I couldn't train properly because of the cold. First time in Australia, Then he called me like, I'll bring you a jacket, and he got me a jacket to train that night. And it was really fun. We had a fun night. We trained. I went back home. He messaged me, "You still have to come down, have a look at it." To be honest with you, I didn't have money then. I didn't know how to tell him. So I was like, okay, I went home. So I just went home, man. He dropped me at the train station. So I went home. Then he messaged me, "Oh, hope you go home safe." I said, yeah, go home. And he said to me, I said to him, "Bro, I don't think I can make it because I don't have money to come to catch the train or eat." He was like, "Damn, you didn't tell me." I said, "Okay, cool." So he said, "Okay, don't worry. I'll come to your house straight away." So he came straight away to my house and gave me $50. And then $50 looked like a big money, bro. You don't understand. It's funny, but it was something I would never forget. A few weeks later, he told me he can help me get a job. And that's how I started getting a job of working in the hospital. So he took me to the interview. He waited for me I had that interview. The next day they told me I got the job. And I got home. I told him, "Bro, I got the job." It was like, "Yeah, fine. You can start a life. You can still work and play." So that's how I started. He's always been there for me, and he's like a savior to me.
Everyone that comes from overseas does not come here happy. Okay, it's hard for them to come in and start a new life, basically. But when I can help these guys be happy and look after them, then that's what I do it for. That's why I'm in the game.
It's like a mentor to us Africans. You understand? He's always been there for the Africans. I don't know about community else. I don't know anybody. But apart from the African ones, I know a lot of people knows him due to what he does, for us. And we really appreciate him, for doing that. It's not easy.
Like I said, if someone loves football, I'm gonna look after them, no matter what they are. Whether they're African, they're Arabs, they're white, they're pink, they're green, whatever they are, we're gonna look after them. As long as they love football. For me, I'm a football person, and I love football. I do it because I love it. I don't do it for anything else. I don't do it for fame, or do it to be a hero, or do it to show off. When the trials come, you walk around thinking you're too good for the world. I do it because I love the game. And I'm honest and I'm straight. And I'll support these guys. No matter if you got one leg, two legs, I'll support you.
Yeah, look, I first came across Tony Basha in the academy when a friend of mine, Emil Damey, a footballer who actually came through the academy himself, recommended that I link up with him because with my work with Fox Sports, I heard that he had an interview potentially with Roberto Carlos that he could set up for me, and he did that, and that just goes to show his connections. But it's more than just big names that he knows. It's the way that he networks with people. For example, Emil Damey, he came from community football as a refugee from Africa, and a good mate of mine, he ended up representing Liberia by playing NPL football and going to play professionally overseas. It's just makes me so proud of the work that I'm involved in. Individuals like Augustin, who overcame the seizures. And
for that Augustin kid, that was an inspiring story, because he went on, that video that we made, he went on to play. He was with the Pararoos now, with the national team. And that video now is being played in Celtic Football Club in Scotland. So obviously it's touched a lot of people, and it's actually a really, really good story.
Then you have the case like Massey, who was a refugee off Christmas Island, floated on a piece of wood in the ocean for 16 hours before he was saved by a fisherman, ended up going to a detention centre, was in absolutely unfathomable circumstances, and came to Australia and was given a sense of belonging and unity within the Australasian Soccer Academy because of the support that Tony provided.
Oh, it was difficult because I remember first night when I got my permanent residency and I was in Melbourne. that time. I mentally couldn't believe it that I was free after 3.5 years in prisons or detention or whatever you call it. And it was really hard. But the hardest part, as I said, is to settle in Australia. You don't know the language, the culture is completely different, and you don't have anyone to help you.
The academy was built on helping kids, you know, and we look after refugee kids. The academy has refugee kids now. We've got kids from Syria, we've got kids from Iraq, we've got kids from Iran, a few kids from Afghanistan, Africa. You know, we look after these kids because, one, football is going to keep them straight and narrow, and obviously they're talented. They're very talented kids. Like they play back home, they play on the streets. So we want to try and hone their skills, but also teach them Australian values and show them family love, because that's what they need.
I think it's every single Australia's dream. Whoever wants to come to this country wants to call it home. It's a beautiful country with great people. Like, doesn't matter how hard the training was or how bad my day was, at the end of the night I was always happy because I had a good training session. But as a footballer, that was the best thing. I always loved it. But as a human being, the love and care and friends that I make through soccer and Australian Soccer Academy stays forever. And I made some friends that not only helped me, they pulled me while I was really struggling in life, and then they did their best to care for me, and that's what I want. I needed it. It's a beautiful country, but when you first come to Australia, when you can't speak the language, you don't know anyone, and plus you don't know the culture. The culture is the biggest thing. It was hard for me, but the things that I really missed was the love, because I came by myself with no one. But I got lots of love and respect from the Soccer Academy.